All right, this is video 2 in our series on Sophocles' Oedipus the King. Here are all of the goals. Video 1 focused on the cultural literacy aspect of understanding Greek tragedy, and this one will focus on the cultural literacy of understanding Oedipus itself. What goes on in this play, the plot details, and why it's famous. So it's important to realize that most of what actually happens in the story happens off stage, almost all of it. And most of it has already happened in the past. The real plot of Oedipus is Oedipus coming to reinterpret his past and to understand himself and to realize that he really had no idea who he is. And that is the plot. And so it's important to realize that all of the spectators knew the story already, so they're not being informed really about the story. They are watching one of their own come to realize that who he thought he was isn't who he was. And that's one of the main goals of Greek tragedy, is to give people a sense that their roots in nature and their roots in their community are deeper than their own analytic mind is maybe capable of fathoming. And so to the degree we haven't explored our past, we're going to be ignorant of it and not really understand who we are. So coming to self-understanding is the plot of the play of Oedipus. So that doesn't mean that there's not a story and a backstory. And so we've talked about this in class, but here are the details again. Oedipus is born in Thebes to King Laius and Queen Jocasta. There's a prophecy that their son will kill his father and sleep with his mother, and King Laius doesn't like that at all, and so he wants Oedipus dead, doesn't want to do it himself, gives the task to a servant. The servant doesn't want to do it, and Oedipus ends up not dying. And was taken up to a mountain, and that's his legs were bound as he's being carried around, and that's why he's got these swollen feet, which is what Oedipus actually means, the word. And he, by a series of coincidences, ends up getting adopted by the childless king and queen of Corinth, King Polybus and Queen Merope, as their own. And that's who he thinks his parents are. And he thinks he's from Corinth, and he thinks those are his parents. As a young man, he learns that there's this prophecy he will kill his father and sleep with his mother. So what would a rational being do? Well, a rational being would probably leave Corinth and go somewhere else. I don't know, maybe like Thebes. And so he goes to Thebes. On his way, there's this scuffle at a place where three roads meet, and those roads could be the past, present, and future, right? And he kills a man in that scuffle over some disagreement about rights of way as they make it through this treacherous area of the road. And it turns out that guy was Laius, right? That was his actual father, though he didn't know it at the time. He gets to Thebes, and he realizes that Laius has recently been killed, and that Thebes has been taken over in the power vacuum by a sphinx. And Oedipus solves the riddle of the sphinx and is rewarded with the kingdom and with, this widow queen Jocasta, who of course turns out it's his mother. Years later, Thebes is suffering from a plague, and the word on the street from the oracle is that the plague's caused by Laius's murder being in Thebes, and Oedipus resolves as the leader of Thebes to catch the murderer, and he talks to people about it and talks to Tiresias, the blind seer of Thebes in particular, and realizes that he He is the killer of Laius, and he has slept with his mother. His mother finds out, Jocasta, his wife and mother, and she kills herself. And Oedipus takes pins from her dress and gouges out his own eyes, and then sort of makes a deal with the rising leader of Thebes, Creon, to take care of his daughters, who he had with his mother, Antigone and Ismene, and then he agrees to exile, and that's how the play ends. And then there's two other plays in the sequence. One's called Oedipus at Colonus, that's where he dies, and then there's another one called Antigone, which is very famous too. And so the cultural takeaways. So we'll talk more about this when we get into the nitty-gritty of the meaning of the play. But a lot of the Greek tragedies are about the overreaching of the human intellect, right? And so that's one of the things that one of the themes that Oedipus is known for, right? Here he's doing everything he can to do the rational thing, and that rationality is just taking him further and further into his own destiny. So this whole question of, are humans free to do what they want, or are they bound to nature in ways they don't understand, so that even their attempts to do what they want will bind them deeper and deeper into their own destiny? He doesn't. Also, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. Oedipus is a poster boy for hubris, right? He blunders around, confident he's doing the right thing, and it turns out he's doing exactly the opposite of what he was intended. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, and it's important that leaders know what they don't know and be suspicious. There's something very famous, you've probably heard of it, called the Oedipus complex. Freud got that from this, got the idea of that from this play, and Jocasta actually has a line in the play, "Many a man in his dreams has slept with his mother." And Freud does all this analysis and finds out that that is actually true, that boys at 11, 12, 13, the beginning of their pubescence, apparently in the West, have these fantasies in their dreams, and sometimes not just in their dreams, about replacing their father and being with their mother. And so this is sort of a famous thing in psychology, and it owes itself to Oedipus. So you have to understand Oedipus to understand the Oedipus complex, and then also just the very cultural phrase "solving the riddle of the Sphinx." That means it's a sign of uncanny wisdom, right? So if somebody can solve the riddle of the Sphinx, it means just they're really, really smart and wise. Ultimately, we have to ask, though, whether that kind of clever wisdom gets him anywhere, or if it actually just leads to his doom. And so, anyway, those are the main cultural takeaways and the cultural literacy you need from understanding Oedipus.